Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel where we learn everything ethical hacking. If you are just joining me, do well to hit the subscribe button, and of course don't forget to like, share and comment on my videos, and lastly turn on the notification bell so that you don't get to miss any of my updates. So to begin, last week we looked at manual pen testing, and I want to believe that we learned a thing or two from the last lesson, even though there were a few hiccups at the last phase of the teaching because I couldn't establish foothold on our targets because we were hitting a particular error which I couldn't triangulate as at the time. But so I will be picking up from there, as I promised that I would ensure that I communicate that particular knowledge to us. And what was that about? It was about manual exploitation, how to set up a reverse shell, and how to set up a listener, and how to open a backdoor through the listener to get access via remote code execution to your target machine. And for last week we were using a vulnerable lab metasploitable tool, and that's the same lab we will be using. But I just want to bring something to our notice. So I went through the walkthrough again, and I realized that I was making a particular mistake. I can't really place it how it happened, but probably maybe I was exhausted at the time because my lessons are always live lessons. So but very quickly I'll just do a catch-up from where we stop. We'll just try to quickly see how we can actually do that, and once we are done with that, I would show us a quick hack. One of the fastest means that I use to actually comb for users on the across social platforms. The fastest means I use to find any user across social platforms. So I will be exposing us to that particular methodology and the approach that I use on the command line. So to begin, I'll just quickly jump right into it. So I have my metasploitable up and running here. You can see the IP address of our metasploitable here, 192.168.153.129. It's already up, and you can see my Kali Linux is up here. So we'll just take the exploit from where we stopped. So this is a quick continuation of where we stopped last week. So we'll just do an ls here. You can still see our VSTPD 2.3.4 exploit file here, which we downloaded from GitHub. So I'll just navigate into that particular directory and do an ls here. So you can see this is the exploit.py file that we have here. So but I will show us where we were hitting the error, why we were getting the error, why we are not getting a reverse shell on our listener. I will quickly tell us why that was happening last week. Alright, so all I need to do here is just to test this exploit again. So Python 3, and I'll specify the target. So this is our exploit file here, and next is I will specify the target IP of our vulnerable lab, our metasploitable, and specify the ports. You can see the ports, port 21 FTP, and I'll give a command here, ID. So again, I did an extensive teaching last week. Again, if you didn't follow up the last lesson, please do well to look up the previous lesson, which was how to perform manual pen test. Please look up the lesson so that you can be able to follow up on this, because this is just a quick session to fine-tune or finalize what we started last week. So I will just do an ID here using an ID command now, and I will initiate. So this is just to test this particular exploit, and you can see connected to backdoor on this particular IP address target, and you can see it was able to get a foothold of our target. You can see ID here, we are root. I can do another command here. I can decide to do I can decide to do, instead of ID, I can decide to specify host name, for instance, host name, and I will hit enter. So this is just us now trying to test this particular exploit to see if this exploit will actually give us remote code execution into our target. And you can see it was connected, connection was successful here, and this is our response. You can see metasploitable. So from the commands we are getting, we are initiating, we are actually getting response, meaning this exploit is good, it's actually reaching our target. All right, so the next thing we want to do here is to quickly set up a reverse shell and also start our listener. So to do that, I will just quickly come to my terminal. Let's come back to our browser and we'll just type reverse shell cheat sheet. Reverse shell cheat sheet. Reverse shell cheat sheet. All right, so you can see very quickly the first one we have here is from Pentest Monkey, which is a good repository. So I will just load that. All right, and very quickly you can see it's up already. So we'll just quickly scroll through and you can see some of the cheat sheets we have here. This is a bash, it's a reverse shell for bash, and we have for Perl, I have for Python, we have for PHP, Ruby, Netcat, Java, and the likes. And you can still remember that last week we did try bash, but we were not getting a good response. But today again we will still try, but I need you to see something. But notwithstanding, let's start with the bash. So I'll just copy that of bash, for instance, and I will come back to our terminal. All I need to do here is start specify again. So in place of this command where we're supposed to issue a command, I would quickly open my string here and paste our reverse shell, which we've just copied, and I've pasted this way. The reason why I am putting this in a string is because we have space between this command, and just so that the system does not treat all these as a standalone command. That's why we are putting it in a string. When we are doing bash scripting, I did teach us why string is important. So if you are still trying to get the hang of this, please look up my previous lessons on bash scripting. So you can see, but we have some things to edit here on this. So basically this was where we were getting it wrong last week, which I am not sure why that I would make such an oversight. Again, probably maybe I was really exhausted and I couldn't notice. All right, so we have specified our target machine here, right? So this is the IP address of our target, metasploitable, and we specify the ports that we want to exploit, and you can see now this, for where we're supposed to put an ID, we are putting a reverse shell because we're trying to reverse the connection back. We're trying to redirect the connection to give us a shell, to open a shell for us, where we can actually perform, to give us a full session where we can actually can carry out lateral movements and so on and so forth. So all we need to do here now is to change this particular IP address here, edit this, and put the IP address of our own machine. Remember, we are trying to say once you establish connection with this particular target, I need you to send me a feedback. So this again here will need to communicate with us to tell us that, okay, I finally got an entry. See the terminal here, what do you want to do? So just like we know we're using a command that we tried id worked for us, we tried hostname, even though we tried ifconfig here, you see that this exploit is actually hitting this target. But we don't just want it to be a one-liner kind of thing. We're trying to get a steady shell here, a session open. So I will just quickly change this to the IP address of my Kali. Remember, but initially last week we were using the IP address of our target, which we were still replicating this IP address. It's a serious oversight on my end. Again, I'm not sure how that could possibly happen, but it did happen. So nobody's above mistake. So I'll just quickly open a new tab for us here, and I'll just open a new tab, and so I can check my IP address, right? So so I'll just do ifconfig here, so I can just get my IP address. So you can see my IP address is 192, 168, 153, 128. So I'll just copy this, and I'll come back, and I'll just need to replace this. I'll just edit this reverse shell here, and I will paste. What did I do? It didn't paste on the right place. Okay, let's just type it. Let's just type it. 192.168.153.128. So I'll quickly delete the one I have outside here. Alright, so the next thing I want to specify is our listening port. See, this is our local port here, so I need to specify this. I can change this now to, let's see, 1 2 3 4 for instance, or just 1 2 3 like this as our listening port, or let me add 1 2 3 4 for instance. And before I run this, I want to set up my listener now. So let's still use this terminal. So I will just Ctrl C here. I will just clear this. I will just clear that, and I'll set up our listener using Netcat. Again, if you don't know how to use Netcat, I did explain all this in the previous lesson on the manual pen test, how to perform manual pen test. Please do well to look up that video so that you can follow up this lesson. So I'll just do Netcat dash nvlp, just look up what this particular switches are all about, right? So netcat.n nvlp, as the case may be, and I will specify that our listening port, which we used as 1 2 3 4. So this is the port here. See this listening port, this is a local port here that we want we want to set up here to be listening for this particular connection, to get this particular connection. So before I execute this, I will start the listener. So I have my listener here waiting for any connection that will be initiated on this particular target. So I can go ahead now and start this. I'll just hit enter, and let's say it's attempting to trigger backdoor. All right, so you see we couldn't open a shell for us here connected to backdoor, but they couldn't give us a shell, they couldn't give us a session. If I check my listener now, you can see nothing is open here, but not to worry. If I come back to our browser, let's come back to the reverse shell, you see that it is stated here that some versions of bash can send you a reverse shell. So it means that some version of bash, based on the vulnerabilities they are trying to exploit, might not give you a reverse shell. So we have lots of reverse shell that we can try here. Let's try a Netcat, for instance. Since bash couldn't give us what we wanted, I'll just copy this and I'll come back to our terminal here, and permit me to quickly clear this so that I can just execute that again. So all I need to do is to edit the place of this bash. I will edit this, and I will paste the new reverse shell that we copied from Netcat, that of Netcat, and I will edit the same thing. I will edit the parameters here, the target here, and the listening port. So I will just edit this. My IP address is 192. Don't forget, this is the IP address of our own terminal, our own Kali machine, 192.168.128. Yes, so this is the IP address of my Kali machine, right? So I have the IP address of my Kali here. Why this is necessary? Because we're trying to tell the computer that when you establish this communication, or if you're able to reach this particular target which are exploitable, I need you to communicate back to me. I'm using, this is my IP address, and listening at this port. This is the port where I want you to communicate through, which is port 1234, which we are setting up here. So you can see if I have here my Netcat is still up, waiting for any connection on this port 1234. All right, so let's go ahead and execute this again. So I will just hit enter on this, Let's see. Alright, so you can see connection has been established, connected to backdoor on this particular IP address, this which is our target. And you can see this time around the connection didn't die. So now let's go back to our listener netcard and see. You can see now we are connected to 192.168.158, and you can see, so this is our target, this is our own IP address, and this is the target IP. It's our target IP, our exploitable. So it was able to connect and give us a response, like it redirects to us and open a shell for us here. If I do an ID here, for instance, you can see now we are root. If I do host name, you can see we are metasploitable. But again, I can do an ls here, but you can see this is not an interactive shell. We have not gotten an interactive shell. So by interactive shell, I still did explain all this in the previous lesson. Please do well to catch up. So to get an interactive shell, let's quickly spawn a TTY shell here. So I'll just come back to my browser here. Let's see how to spawn a TTY shell. So I'll just do I love typing on the bottom here so that you guys can see it clearly. Alright, so just since we have it here, I'll just type spawning a TTY shell. You can see we have spawning a TTY shell. This is the first we have here by Wiki Zachella. I'll just check it out. Alright, so I'll just scroll down. So you can see the first I have here is it's a Python script. I'll just copy this. Let's use this for instance. I'll just copy this and I'll come back to my terminal. Let's go to our terminal. So this is the terminal we are working on. I'll just do type clear here for instance. So you can see everything is just blank. It's not giving us a good shell, right? So now I'll just quickly paste the TTY shell that we copied, this like this, and I'll hit enter. And let's see. Okay, not sure why. Let me see ID. Are we still connected to this target? Let me see this. I'm not sure why. Let's see. Exit. I'm coming. Okay. It's not interactive anymore. I think I've broken this session. Let me do this. Let's do. I'll just quickly let me terminate this first. Okay, you can see the session has died. No wonder. So I'll just start our netcard again. Start this and it's listening here, and I will quickly I'll quickly run this again, and I'll quickly start this again. Start our exploit again, and it has connected. I'll come back here. You can see now we got a session open here, so we can do ID here. For instance, you can see we are root. Alright, so now let's paste the TTY shell that we copied. So I'll just go ahead and paste that here. So this is it like this. Now I'll just hit enter. Okay, I think for some reason this particular Python it's not really responsive. It's not responsive. Okay, I see it's not responsive. Let's see something. Let's come back here. Let me see. Oh, I didn't copy. You can see I didn't copy the full syntax here. I didn't copy the full syntax, so I think I might have to restart this. But let me see. Let me just try pasting again. And okay, that died. So I didn't quite copy the full syntax there. So I'll just quickly start the netcard again. Alright, so we did listening for connection. I will start our exploit, and our exploit is connected. The next thing I want to do now, you can see we got a session here. If I do ID, we are root. So I will paste our TTY shell this way and hit enter, and this time around you can see now we got a much more interactive shell here. I can just do clear, for instance, and you can see we've got a more interactive shell. I can do ls here. You can see we've got a more juicy shell now, right? So I can do who am I here, who am I. You can see we are root user, we are logged in as a root user here. I can do an ifconfig here, ifconfig. You can see this is the IP address of our metasploit table. So if we do hostname, for instance, hostname, you can see we are metasploitable. So very quickly, this is one way of carrying out a manual pen test, where you get to use your reverse shell, you set up your listener, and you see this knowledge is very important because in the course of this sprint I will be teaching you how to create payload. It comes under the reconnaissance, under the pen test methodologies. It falls under weaponization, right? So for weaponization, this is that point where you get to craft your payload. So I will be teaching us how to create your payload that you can use for hacking, whether mobile app, how to hack Windows. I will be showing you all this in subsequent lessons. So for today, this was just a quick recap of, or should I say, a quick conclusion of what we couldn't achieve last week, right? So this is one way of performing a manual pen test, right, where you get to find an exploit that is working, a working exploit, and upon deploying that exploit, you find a reverse shell that you can use to bind with that particular exploit to give you a session, and also how to set up your listener, right? So again, I want to believe this was more than helpful.
Alright, so with that being said, we've come to the end of today's lesson. If you're just joining me, please do well to hit the like button, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you all in my next video.